community mindset, and also our YSL multimedia youth talks that we do, which is teaching the young people about public speaking. That's all I have.
Thank you. And Kawan, am I
Yes.
saying that correctly?
Yes.
Yes. Welcome to Coppin.
Thank you. Thank you. I am Kawan Young. I too am the executive director of SOI Baltimore, which is Save Our Young. And our mission is to invest and inspire change by creating healthy relationships between youth, law enforcement, and community. Some of the areas that we focus on is conflict resolution, uh, building a bridge with law enforcement, but mostly important, educating our youth on the law.
Okay, thank you. So I would like for our young people, our future scholars, if you could just repeat after me. And you have to promise, you have to repeat after me with your outdoor voice. Remember, we were younger, you say, use your outdoor voice or your indoor voice. So if it is to be, say that after me. If it is to be, it is up to me. Let's try it one more time. If it is to be, it is up to me. So what you see before us are four, and I'm so excited, four outstanding, dynamic leaders who are making a difference. They're change agents, and they're living and doing what Booker T. Washington said, that the happiest people are those that help others. So we'll begin the panel discussion, and we'll start with Dr. Lance. Could you share with our guests what started your journey in nonprofit leadership, or I guess sparked your interest in social entrepreneurship?
So, Dr. Pearl, thank you for that question. So, for me, it's something that I talked to your class about before. I would urge all of you to be passionate about whatever you're doing. So, the young man that said he wanted to be in the Olympics, you have to be passionate about whatever you're doing. What has me where I am right now was a circuitous route. So, originally, I was a CEO and executive in major corporations, but I wasn't passionate about that work. It was not fulfilling me. I needed to come back to the city of my birth and try to make a change in my city. So I walked away in 2004 from a very high paying job to do work in this sector because I needed to make a difference. And so you have to be passionate about it. That's what has me here.
Okay, so passion. So we'll go with Kawan. If you could share with our future leaders, what is your passion, or what motivated you towards your journey in nonprofit leadership and a social entrepreneur?
What motivated me was just seeing the decline in resources for our youth, losing so many um, youth that I mentored to gun violence just propelled me to do something.
Okay, Darren.
Yes, and like the same, just like Dr. Lance said, just the passion and just the desire for betterment. So, being born and raised in Baltimore to two teenage parents, in the early '80s, my dad used drugs in the beginning stages of my life. It was a bunch of gaps there, which caused me to miss out on different things and have a desire for different relationships. So in my journey of developing into the man that I am today, I realized that there's really no space for a young man who wants to become a leader. So if you play sports, many of us engage in sport activities. It's pretty much like a structured pipeline to how you get to the NBA. But if you're a young man in Baltimore City who just wants to increase your capacity for leadership and just be all that you possibly can be, I didn't necessarily see a place for that. So what we ventured to do starting in 2015 was to create that space where young men would be able to establish their leadership.
Thank you. And Brandon, if you can answer the question, what sparked your journey or interest in nonprofit leadership and or social entrepreneurship?
Yeah. So what sparked my lead and was really about me being passionate. About me really growing up here. I grew up here in West Baltimore. Just seeing all the violence, the crime activity, drug activity that's been going on. I wanted to be able to help change that and change the mindsets of our young people, and having them be able to have a dream and be able to realize that your dreams can come true. Just keep working hard, stay dedicated. And I also say get around the right people. And I think another thing too is just a gem real quick is just grow. I had to get rid of old ways, and that's how I got here today.
Awesome, awesome. Similar to our panelists, my passion or my interest in nonprofit leadership started at a very young age. I was about 4 years old, and I shared this story with my students. Growing up in Baltimore during the 80s or late 70s and the 80s, we only had two radio stations where we would listen to R&B radio. It was WEBB and WWIN, and they were located on the AM radio. And I would ride around in my mother's Ford Pinto. I was raised by a single parent, my mother, who instilled in me in a young age that helping and making a difference in the lives of others is really living a life of wealth. And we're going to talk about earned income and passive income and things of that will be in multiple streams of income. But also wealth also includes making a difference in the community and allowing your core values to just influence the lives of others. So while I was riding in that Ford Pinto, my mother will often share the story that on WEBB, Bill Withers, Lean on Me would come on, and I would just light up. But what I didn't realize at that time, even at a young age, at 4 years old, I was tapping into something what I believe that we all are born with a unique calling or something that's in us that we're called to do. So my journey, it's not a surprise to many of my family members, is preparing nonprofit leaders because it's something that I'm very passionate about. Dr. Williams encouraged you all to take notes, and he introduced a vocabulary to you earlier. It's two words I encourage you to write down is passion and core values. So as you continue throughout the day, this conference, I want you to think about those core values and those things that matter most to you. So now I would like to ask Kawan, can you share a little bit about your organization and what gap does it fill? You gave a brief intro, but you could share with our audience, what is the mission of your organization and what gap does it fill within Baltimore City, and why do you think that's important?
Well, the gap that I'm trying to fill, one, being a Baltimore native, I don't know if I mentioned, but I work in law enforcement. So seeing all the countless incidents with young Black males, being a Baltimore native, growing up in the inner city, I felt like I had to do something to change that. So how do SOI change that? One, we educate our youth on the law, but we try to transition some of our youth from the area to join the profession.
Okay, Darren, you want to pick that up?
Yes. So the gap that we attempt to fill is providing strategic programming just for young men, and putting them into position. So let me explain a little bit about our program. So in our leadership development program, we host classes on things like effective communication. So the way in which I'm able to communicate now, I wasn't as a young person, but it's necessary for leadership, because leadership is all about being able to display your vision. And get people to, become attracted to your vision. But if you can't really communicate what you're thinking and what your thoughts are, you're unable to do that. So we're really big on effective communication. We partner with SOI for law enforcement engagement. We engage in civics, as well as we hold classes or opportunities for individuals to engage in exploratory learning. We have a junior workforce development program. What we've noticed is that a lot of our young people are interested in trades and entrepreneurship, but we don't necessarily think that they will be ready for the workforce at 18. So we decided to create a program called the Community Investment Work Program that supports young people with learning workforce development skills while investing into their communities. The third focus area is something that you guys talked about earlier, which is financial literacy. I grew up extremely poor. So I know, what it looks like to not necessarily have the finances you need. But even in my journey, as I was able to grow my finances, I didn't do well financially until I learned systems and structures that allowed me to be successful with my finances. So that's a core principle of the work that we do. And last but not least, and what makes us unique from other organizations, is the way that we look at health and wellness. And we look at it from a holistic standpoint. So we engage activities, biking, swimming, jogging, fitness boot camps, yoga, mindfulness, as well as we have a cabinet of licensed clinicians who support our young people with staying mentally well. So not only are we developing the next generation's leaders, we're striving to ensure that they're healthy and that they're in position to be successful and lead the next generation.
Thank you. And we'll go with Brandon, if you could share that as well. What gap and what is the mission?
Yeah, so the gap that we want to fill is just teaching our young people about leadership skills, similar to what Mr. Darren just shared, and also really about the entrepreneurship and really getting involved in the community. Community engagement is very important to our young people. We want to be able to teach and really educate them. And then what we find is that a lot of our young people are trained to like graduate high school, right, and then go work a 9 to 5. But we want to be able to open up the door for them to be able to say, you can become an entrepreneur, you can start this business, and we want to help you grow and develop your business.
And may I ask, I assume that you're the youngest on the panel. Could you share your age with our guest, please?
Yes, I am the youngest on the panelists. I am 23 years old.
Wow. If it is to be, it is up to me. So, Dr. Lance, could you talk a little bit about the gap, how what Parks and People is filling and the mission?
Be glad to, Dr. Pearl. So for us, the first thing that we focus on is what's called the summer learning loss. There's research that shows that over the summer, when kids are not in an academic program, that there's a degradation, there's a loss of what they learned the prior school year. And so research shows that we look at your reading literacy, 3rd grade and 8th grade, and based on that, we can determine how many prisons we're going to need. We can determine where people will be employed and where they won't be. And so what we seek to do is fill that gap and to mitigate or stem the tide of that learning loss so that when you resume school in that next academic year, the instructor doesn't have to spend the first 6 to 8 weeks reteaching what they taught the year before. We also will work on workforce development, so we will teach landscaping and forestry, robotics, virtual reality, artificial intelligence, such that people can have a leg up if they decide to matriculate in college. Great. We've already started showing you these things. If not, you have certifications in some of these skills where you can then go out into the workforce. And we focus on social emotional learning, which basically is talking about how do you handle yourself in situations so that you don't react out of an adverse or maladaptive emotion, but rather you can handle it in a way that's productive. And so we focus on those things. We think that those are the gaps that we can address. And so we don't think that the problems are monolithic. So we're not trying to have a monolithic solution. This is just what we do.
Thank you. Thank you. This question is specifically for Brandon. It's interesting that I don't know if you are familiar with the story of KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken, Colonel Sanders. Colonel Sanders was actually about 64 years old or something like that when he had the vision or started that particular entity. But there is a Mozart, I believe that was for the pianist, the classical pianist was about 4 or 5 years old. And then there is a painter called Grandma Moses, who was about 90 or 80 years old when she started picking up the paintbrush. So this panel is designed for you to start thinking now about your future, about those core values and those things that matter to you. So Brandon, could you just share a little bit at the young age of 23, what sparked you to start and to do what you're doing? And what advice do you have for our youth in the audience today, our future leaders?
Yeah, so what sparked me, like I said, going back to the question earlier, was just seeing what was going on in Baltimore City. Seeing the community, but also seeing opportunities too as well, because a lot of times we talk about the negative things, right? But it's a lot of positive work that's going on in Baltimore City. We have a lot of leaders, a lot of programs that are out here for our young people to get involved into. We just got to be able to find ways to help get them there and get them through the programs and help them through the process. A message I would like to share to the audience, to the young people, that young leaders that's in the room, young kings and queens, is this: that stay set. Find your passion, find what you really want to do, and get in your comfort zone and get, like I said, get that support system around you to help you get there. So if you want to become a teacher, if you want to become a lawyer, if you want to become a doctor, I would say start the process right now. Don't just wait. Like, start now.
What challenges did you face or come into as a young person with a big dream?
Ooh,
And how did you overcome it?
So I faced a lot of challenges. I'll be honest, me sitting up here right now today is one of my challenges, because this wasn't me. If a lot of people see me here today, they'll be, of course, proud of me, but they'll be shocked too, because they're like, he's not really the public speaker, you know. So being able to also step outside the comfort zone. What I was told was that you got to get uncomfortable being comfortable. You know, that's kind of hard, but you got to face the challenges that come your way and just stay focused, stay dedicated to what you really want to do. I know this is a space and opportunity for me to be here, and I want to help guide the young people and help the panelists that are here with me today as well, to give feedback and set people up for success.
Okay, thank you. By show of hands, could you just raise yes if you do? How many in the audience have a mentor? Okay, thank you. About 4 or 5 in the back. So I would like for our panelists to talk about the value of having a mentor, a coach, and then we'll talk a little bit about sponsorship. So Darren, could you talk about the value, and then we'll go with Dr. Lance.
I would love to see those hands again. So I had some individuals are short arming me. So let's put your hands all the way up so we can get an exact number. So I see mentorship as the highest form of leadership, because what you do as a mentor, if Dr. Lance was mentoring me, he would be taking his whole life and everything that he's ever went through, experienced, and he would be attempting to download it on me, with the expectation of me, checking certain boxes in order for me to get to the next level. But what if I didn't do anything with the information that he provided for me? So it's one of those things that's essential. I think that just based by the show of hands, that what I already know is that it's a limited value on mentorship. And I just would love to understand how people expect to get to where they want to get to if they don't necessarily have individuals who have already been there or who are on the road to it. So I just think mentorship is essential. Like, it's a life source for me. Like, anytime you succeed in life, it was because of the direction or the mentorship of someone. And I think that we need to just really take that into serious consideration if we want to be successful. On the other side, if you don't necessarily want mentors, what you're saying is that I'm willing to learn, I'm willing to lose a lot, I'm willing to, hit my head a lot, I'm willing to try to figure things out, when, just the easier route would be to be a wisdom learner and to learn from someone else.
Okay, I'm gonna switch it up a little bit. Dr. Lance, could you share a memory or a significant reframing moment with your mentor? How has a mentor changed your life, or things like that?
So I'd be happy to. So thank you. So I think this whole idea of mentorship is critically important, and I'm glad that this came up. And I would ask you to see it really as a relay race. And so if I'm running one leg, I need to turn the baton over to the next person that's going to run. But the idea is that we've all been trained, and that this baton now goes to the next person who can also run the next leg, and we'll give it to the next. Mentorship ought to be that way. And so for me, the significant moment really was in an academic program that I was taking. And so the professor that I had said to me at one point in time that you have the ability. It was literally a class in biblical studies. It was New Testament biblical studies. He said, at this point in time, there are less than 100 African Americans in New Testament biblical studies in this country, and you have the ability to be one. And he said, but you're not giving it your all. So I'm going to press you to get the most out of you so that you can be one. And so that's that whole idea of the mentorship has already been said, that somebody is instilling into you, expecting you now to run the next leg of the race. And that person will instead give the baton, in turn, give the baton to someone else who will then run the next leg. And so for all of you, please, I urge you, get a mentor who can help you make it that next leg of the race that you run a little easier, because they've instilled something in you.
Thank you, Dr. Lance. One of my favorite quotes is it's an African proverb. It says, "We stand tall, or if we stand tall, it's because we stand on the shoulders of those who come before us." So mentorship matters. And Kawan, if you could just share with our audience a mentorship story and a little bit about your mentor.
I would say my mentor, I didn't get my mentor until late into life, once I got into this profession. However, I too share the sentiments of Dr. Lance and Darren. It's important. Me, growing up in the inner city, my dad was actually shot in the head at the age of 8. So experiencing traumatic incident like that, I needed a mentor, and I hit several hurdles. But I say that to say my mentor now is Officer Terry Graham. He worked in community engagement. He was that Officer Friendly. I know now many of you may not remember Officer Friendly, but I'm 38 years old. We had an officer that would come to our school and things like that. So he's the perfect officer, and he's always been there for me, and I am too trying to reach back and give that into my community.
Okay, thank you. So, Brandon, if you could talk a little bit about how do you recommend or encourage our future leaders and kings and queens, as you call them, to seek out mentorship if they haven't had one? What do we do?
Yeah, so I mean, you go find, you not really go find, but you want to look for you want to make sure you had the right mentor, right? Because you want to make sure that you maybe research the person. That's the key term there, just to do your research on the individual that you want to mentor you. What do you want to learn from this person? How can this person help you grow into the space that you want to get to and help you put you on a successful platform as well? Another thing I want to say too is that my mentor is actually right next to me, to the right of me, Mr. Terrence Rogers. And we've had a lot of conversations. He's taught me a lot. Just learning from him and how he works with his organization, how I can help benefit my organization and help us both organizations grow all together.
Thank you. Kawan, could you talk a little bit about the balance of giving back and paying forward in the business? Because you do have a business and it's a mission-based business, but how do you balance it to make sure that you're achieving the outcomes that you set to achieve? And why is that important?
Balance. This is always a struggle, but I know that that sowing into our youth, sowing into community, that's enough payment for me. Just seeing the success, having my mentees tell me the part that I played in their life. But balance is everything, because if you don't dedicate the proper time, you're gonna lose focus. So
Thank you, Kawan. So, being a mission-based leader, a for-profit, nonprofit leader, you have to have different type of skill set, various acumen. In the class setting, my scholars, they do a gap analysis where they are encouraged to look at a job that they want to work with or work in one day and look at the qualifications, so that we don't wait until we actually apply for or want to apply for a job to find out what type of skill sets that are available. So this particular assignment encouraged scholars, future leaders, to look to see what's trending in the sector and allow you an opportunity to prepare, to examine your skill set. So Darren, could you talk a little bit about the challenge or the balance of paying it back, paying back and paying it forward, and the balance in the business?
Yeah, I think for me, in my journey to establishing my business, I was probably like the lead investor for the first 3 years, and often what that does is as an entrepreneur, most businesses fail within the first 2 years. So in efforts to ensure the success of the business, I invested into mine, for maybe like the first 3 years. But what happens is, what you learn during the journey is that it is a business and it has to be a balance in giving back. So for an example, I get a bunch of speaking engagements or opportunities to, speak with different groups. And I have to balance the amount of time I spend, speaking to youth or speaking to individuals with handling business, because I would much rather honestly make an impact or, be in front of you guys today to share the great work that I do. But if I continue to do this every day, all day, then I wouldn't be managing my staff, and then we probably would be out of business. And then I would be the the ex leader of I Am Mentality. So it's a quality balance, and that's why that goes back to mentorship. So learning from individuals who have done the work, beyond me, because these are like skills that don't just necessarily pop up. So you actually have to have people who do the work that you do and find balance. I would encourage everyone to be a reader and a lifelong learner, because that will determine your success in being able to balance your life out.
Thank you. And Dr. Lance, if you could answer that question, and Darren kind of led into my next question about reading, what's on your reading list. So if you could just answer, how do you balance paying back and paying it forward, and making sure that you adhere to the business and achieving those goals?
So one of the things I would say is make sure you stay mission focused. So why do you exist? And so you've heard from each one of us talking about why we exist. Make sure that what you're doing as it relates to running that entity, that you are staying focused. So this is thing we call mission creep, where you can start expanding what you're trying to do, and you can get misaligned with what you were trying to do originally. So that balance is making sure that you stay mission focused. And then also, as was said, always continue to learn. So there were some things that I thought I knew academically, some things I thought I knew professionally, but the more that you get in it, you keep learning, and you have to be open to keep learning. And as long as you're then staying mission focused, as long as you're open to learning, you can continue to then balance and move forward. But if you ever think, I got it, I don't need to learn anymore, if you're just open to anything that comes your way without keeping your focus, then you will lose that balance.
Exactly. So in the classroom, I share with our scholars that nonprofits, they have a mission and a purpose, but also we have individuals, we all have a mission. So I encourage you to find out what your mission is. So Brandon, how would you answer that question about keeping balance?
Yeah, so just keep it balanced. I mean, staying focused, really balancing out the work that we do, because sometimes it can be a challenge. Just knowing where to be at, and just also really just trusting the process, but knowing exactly what it is you really want to do. I know it can be sometimes like events comes up, just knowing where to balance, where to be at the right time. And also just making sure again that you're around the right people, and then having the right people around you that can help move the organization forward, as well as having the team.
Okay, thank you. So for our young audience and our young students or scholars, I would like for you all to stand up for a second, because our panelists are going to share some wisdom to you. If you could just stand up. So our high schoolers and things, if you just stand up for a second and receive the message. So we have about 2 more questions, and while our scholars stand up and you can see their face and you have their attention. So Darren, could you talk a little bit about your work, give them words of wisdom as it relates to finances, earned income, and how to prepare now?
Yeah, that's a lot. So, so what I would say from a financial standpoint is, I mean, I would just have to go back to the same thing. I would pursue mentorship. I would pursue wisdom. So, the way that I do it is I align mentors in every area of my life. So I have someone that's instrumental to me from a spiritual standpoint, someone who supports me with my finances, a personal assistant who's way better than me at administrative work and helping me manage my schedule. So I would say, just kind of go back to, sort of what Brandon said, is creating that team. So often as we go on journeys, we see ourselves as individuals. But I think if we started looking at things from a team mindset, with you as yourself being a business, understanding that your business yourself, you would have to align a team in order to put yourself in position to be successful.
Thank you. You may have a seat while the panel continues. So if you want to speak to our future leaders, Mr. Lance, Dr. Lance, what would you like to say?
Thank you, Dr. Pearl and Frank Works. So earlier what was said, and I want to touch on what my young brother said earlier. The advice I would give is, and Dr. Williams said this, don't let anybody box you in. So typically we think of one kind of income, and it was said as a 9 to 5. We actually call that earned income, where you work some job and they pay you some hourly wage or some salary. And 99% of the time, that's what people talk about, earned income, get some education or learn some trade so you can do a 9 to 5. But there are other things. There's passive income, there's portfolio income, there's entrepreneurship. And so the point I'm trying to make is be who you are. Don't let somebody box you in. And if what you want to do doesn't exist, do like these brothers and create it. Right? So be who you are, have your dream, have your passion. Don't let somebody box you in. The world is yours if you're willing to put in the work.
Exactly. Hopefully, Dr. Williams will share with you the Kane story, which was a young person who had innovation and audacious thinking, and built his own and was able to get a scholarship to MIT. So we'll end this question with Brandon and Kawan. If you could just talk to our future leaders and as relates to preparing themselves financially and being able to handle that financial acumen.
Yeah, so one of the things I want to share is it's the importance of really, I would say, save your money, because your money can save you. I think that's something big right there. And just taking the financing piece, like if you make some money, save it as you can. Like save as much as money as you can, especially at a young age, because when the bills come, your life gonna change. Because now you don't have that money, you should go buy them chips and them fresh pair of Jordans and everything that when they first release. because that's just, you got to be able to profit. You want to be able to, and be able to pay your bills and be able to have your expenses. So creating that revenue for yourself is very important. Like Dr. Francis said, is that creating that revenue for yourself, because once again, that 9 to 5 can change. If you want to be able to make more money, have more dollars, more opportunities.
Yes, Kawan.
Yeah, he stole that from me, but I definitely can't stress the importance of save, sacrifice. The mentorship is definitely important because early on in my career, made a lot of money, but more money, more problems. But live like no one now, so you can live like no one later in life. So make those sacrifices. Don't get caught up in looking like everybody else. Be different and be comfortable with being different so you can live like no one later in life.
Exactly. So now we would just like to pause and open up for Q&A for our panelists. So like if we haven't touched anything, maybe there's a question about how to start your mission-based business. Maybe you said to yourself that you want to start a nonprofit that focus on youth. You want to focus a business. So this is your opportunity to ask our panelists some questions. So remember, if it is to be, it is up to me. No questions?
Somebody got one.
Somebody has one
Yeah,
question.
somebody got
Step
one.
outside your comfort zone. Yes, go to the mic. Thank you. And let's follow Mr. Paul. I know we have a brave future leader that will follow Mr. Paul and ask a question.
Always remember, leaders always ask the right question.
Always ask questions. There's no
Good morning.
stupid question.
Good morning, panelists. One of the hardest business and one of the most fulfilling business is running a nonprofit. I don't think folks understand that it is your job to bring in money to run a nonprofit.
Mhm.
Not only bringing in money, but to build a team. Some of you or all of you have a board of directors. And so being a leader, you also have to listen to someone else telling you what to do. I have a question for Dr. Lance. You said that Parks and People has a summer learning program. Is that program still called the Super Kids Camp? Also, can you share with the audience what the program is about and the participants of that particular program?
Thank you. And so, yes, indeed, it is still called Super Kids. So we're now in our 27th year of the Super Kids program. We will have anywhere from 600 to 1,000 rising first graders through fifth grade at multiple sites around the city. The idea is to focus on STEM, and again, is to mitigate the summer learning loss. And so what we will do from 8:30 in the morning to 4:30 in the afternoon, and the program is absolutely free. It doesn't cost anything. It's absolutely free, rising first graders through fifth graders. The idea is to give our kids the shot, the opportunity by stemming that learning loss to give them the best possible opportunity to succeed.
Awesome. Mhm.
These are young people. Are there any volunteer? This is across the board. Are there any volunteer opportunity that you all have for this upcoming summer that these young people here can sign on with you today? And that goes for anyone on the panel.
Yeah, so since I just have the mic, so Parks and People definitely has volunteer opportunities, but let me go a step further, because one of the things that I think that is done in our community is that a number of times we ask people to give their time without compensating them. And I think we need to change that paradigm. So for us, our opportunities over the summer are paid opportunities. And so you can go to Parks and People's website, parksandpeople.org. You can see the opportunities that we have. But yes, we definitely have opportunities for these brilliant kings and queens before me. So if anybody wants to just check out our website, and you'll see what opportunities we have.
How about the other panelists could chime in? What opportunities for those students and scholars here can join your organization? Kawan?
Yeah, we definitely have opportunities. Right now, we more volunteer based, but we work on giving each of our youth stipends.
And what is the age range?
As of now, we're doing middle schoolers for the volunteers. but we'll be working with middle school age youth.
In high school too?
Yes.
High school, okay. Brandon?
Yeah, so similar, we have volunteer opportunities we're working on right now as well. And that age range 18 to 24 for volunteers to help out with our entrepreneurship that we host cohort and our community cleanups that we do in the community. And they also paid opportunities as well.
Okay, Darren?
Thank you, Dr. Lance. So yes, so one of the things we will never have, we won't never leave you without an opportunity to volunteer. So we have volunteer opportunities that can happen virtually, in person, opportunities in which you guys can teach a class, or opportunities just to learn about, just what it looks like to run a nonprofit. One of the things that Dr. Pearl and I have been talking about is being able to pipeline high school students as well as college scholars to ensure that we have, a strong pipeline of, young men and women who are going into this space, because you guys are the next leg of the journey, as Dr. Frank talked about. So we're definitely looking forward to individuals becoming more engaged in our community. And I just would, just take it a step further by just challenging you to get engaged. So all the things that you don't necessarily like about the city, the question that you should ask yourself is, what am I going to do about it? What am I going to do about it? How am I going to get engaged? Or am I going to be one of those individuals who is really good at watching the news and not necessarily knowing about the truth or knowing about all the amazing programs that are here to either assist you or put you in a position to assist others?
Thank you. So on that note, that brings our panel discussion to a close. And it's just some tips that I'd like to share with you. If you don't have a checkbook already or that type of account, I encourage you to speak with your guardians and start to get those tools in place so you can practice, because how we practice is how we play. I'll also encourage you to start searching for a mentor. In my class, I tell my scholars that there are 3 people that can help us along the professional journey. There's a mentor, someone that will take you under their wing and work with you and mold you and introduce you to various opportunities. There's a coach that will help you to enhance your skills and experience and expose you to different things where you can become more effective and confident. And there's a sponsor. No matter what we do at all times, someone is watching and they are observing you, and they may have an opportunity. Someone may contact them and say, hey, I have an opportunity for a person to start up this company or to work with this label company. Do you know someone? And they may say, yes, I know this young person or this person is that dynamic. So keep in mind the value of mentorship, having a coach and a sponsor. So without further ado, continue to stretch yourself, get out your comfort zone, and remember, if it is to be, it is up to me. Thank you, Dr. Williams. And thank you, Ms. Victoria. And I will now pass the mic. And let's thank our panelists. Let's give them a round of applause. Please network. Our panelists will be here for a little bit, and hopefully you will have a few minutes to engage. You may not felt comfortable to ask the question in public, but hopefully they'll have a few minutes to ask our panelists question one-on-one. I'm not sure